Inhabitect is focused on designing, building, and growing green infrastructure. We work from the very beginning with the architects, the engineers, and the landscape architects on the actual design of the green infrastructure on site. We bid the work and install the work. We help keep it alive. We maintain it to keep it performing as it was designed. Thinking of water as a resource rather than a waste is really a core principle of who we are.
We've worked with Inhabitect to create some green roofs on the Cancer Center. We have underground infiltration trenches, we have a small rain garden. All these things are designed to reduce the amount of stormwater getting into Kids Creek, and that will help get it off the impaired waters list.
Today we're standing on the second floor roof of the Cow Family Cancer Center, and we have 3 vegetative roofs at this location. One thing we are proud of here at Munson Medical Center is our partnership with local businesses and our partnership with Inhabitect.
This project is considered a healing garden. Behind those windows are the treatment units. Without this would have been a very uninviting mechanical unit roof. Seeing vegetation helps someone heal a little faster. And that's one of the goals that were here. Another one was tying into the Watershed Center's efforts to improve the impaired waterway of Kids Creek.
Before we did this project, this creek was actually in a ditch and a culvert that went under some roads here. We worked with Munson Medical Center to daylight it. This really worked to restore the stream to a natural habitat and to reduce the stormwater flow.
This is the first line of defense of the treatment train or the management of the water. Any stormwater that hits here, about 50% of that, will be retained. By slowing water down and cooling water down, we're helping increase the likelihood of spawning fish as well as other plants and animals.
We also worked with Inhabitect to install a couple of rain gardens on the south side of Munson's campus.
The water quality in some of the tributaries leading into the Boardman River had been compromised over the decades, so we were fortunate enough to collaborate with the Watershed Center, working with Inhabitect to create these rain gardens behind us here.
This is also part of the Kids Creek watershed, and we're standing at a fairly large rain garden project. That was collaboration with the Watershed Center and Minervini Group here at the Grand Traverse Commons.
The whole reason why this asylum was located right here is because the abundant supply of fresh water that's necessary to operate an old hospital back in the days before public water. And it's kind of cool. I love the symmetry of this whole partnership is because, one bite at a time, we've been restoring these buildings, and now is an opportunity to restore the waterways, the tributaries here on the property.
It's meant to be dense and look wild because a lot of water is coming into this rain garden, and we need to move a lot of water out of the rain garden to dry that sponge out. If you think about all green infrastructure as a sponge, you want to dry the sponge out as quickly as possible after it becomes saturated so that it can soak up the next rainfall.
It's great that we're able to integrate that into the property because, we want to be stewards of the buildings and we want to be stewards of the land and the stewards of the water as well.
We're right downtown and 2 blocks from the bay, and we're right on the Boardman River. Well, this is a brownfield site, which means there's contamination in the soils. In fact, the river used to be where the buildings now are back in the 1800s. So as they built downtown, they used this as a fill site and pushed the river over towards the library and the park. We ran into Nate early on in the project in the early planning stages, actually running into a roadblock because the courtyard is full of utilities, and there was no way to do stormwater retention system below grade, so it didn't leave us a lot of options. We ran into Nate and the idea of green roofs, and voila, there it is, there's the solution.
This is known as sedum. It's a drought-tolerant plant. It's actually a plant that comes out of mountain ranges where more arid and dry. You're helping reduce the amount of water that's infiltrated into the ground. Why do I want to reduce the amount of water going into the ground? But in a brownfield site, you don't want that water to pass through the contaminated soils below these homes and then go into the rivers. Even though this site is now densely developed, it is putting higher quality water into the waterways here than it did pre-development. There are triple bottom line benefits. The economic, social, and environmental benefits are found both in the public and the private sector.
It also protects the roof membrane from ultraviolet light, so the sunlight never degrades the roof membrane and makes it essentially a lifetime roof. It also adds insulation in the wintertime while it's producing oxygen, and it's pleasant to be around. People really love it. It's pretty special.
We're on Elk Lake at the northern end. Elk Lake goes right on out through Elk Rapids and into Lake Michigan. It's pretty darn windy today. When you get a significant wind across a fetch, a large open expanse of water, the wave run-up height gets bigger, and that can create instability along the shoreline.
The grasses, the Joe Pye weed, fragrant sumac, it's all plants that were selected for this particular environment based on the soil type, the amount of moisture that's coming from the lake, and also for the stabilization, what the root systems are going to do for the waterway itself. But this is an area where there's frogs and other wildlife there, and it's creating this microclimate in this little park here.
In working with Nate on some other projects up in the Little Traverse Bay area, I realized this would be something that Nate might want to collaborate on, and so he jumped right on it.
And this pond is actually part of a rain garden system, and these are 2 stages of managing all the stormwater off the roadway and off the parking lot here before it makes its way into Elk Lake.
One of the great things that I'm discovering with Inhabitect, their interest is in protecting the resource. Nate's been really great listening to how we like to do things, particularly shoreline management work. So the more people that we can have like Inhabitect, the better for the resource.